All right, everybody. So as promised, I'm going to start doing the notes here. So there's our little Mario. We're moving from China over to Greece here. And we did a couple notes this week. And so I'm going to give them to you via YouTube. And you'll be able to kind of catch up and know what we're doing. So as we're taking notes, this is how we set up notes if you don't remember. We draw a line across the top, then we draw a line going down, then we put the title up there on the top and the heading in the corner. There's what it looks like. So line going across, line going down, all the notes go in the larger section. Questions and things that I want you to draw and stuff like that will go into the smaller area, and then the title goes on the top and name, date, period go in the right corner, and then the essential question that we'll have will go into under the title. So remember, anything written in yellow you should write in your own words, abbreviate, use symbols, all that kind of stuff. Anything written in red is most likely a definition or a word I want you to know, so make sure you copy down exactly. And then anything in green you do not have to write down whatsoever. So we're halfway through the year. We fixed about half the fractures, which is great. We are moving on to ancient Greece. It seems that they've lost their culture and their government and things like that, so we're going to have to learn about them, fix those fractures, and stop the villain from changing more history. Today we're going to look at the geography of Greece and how that impacted their history and their way of living. So there's the essential question there. And I'm not going to play all of this, just a little bit of it, but here you go. It's just an intro. Maybe. Guess not. Oh, well. So that's okay. If the videos don't work, it's probably because I'm in screencastify, I'm guessing. We did this as an introduction. What do you already know about Greece? Write that in the smaller section. Maybe it's their gods, what type of gods they have. Be specific about which gods are which. And maybe it's their food, what they eat, things like that. I don't know. You can write your responses in your notes. Let's see if this one works. All right, I guess it does work. So we're going on to geography. So there's your title. Sorry about that. Is geography. So we're going to keep going here. We have a Brainstack, which I didn't have the music for, but it's totally fine. The guy probably will even come out because it's on Google Slides, and Google Slides is terrible, but whatever. So this Brainstack is called What Would You Do? All right, so that's just the intro. Sorry about that. So here's the scenario. You live on a rocky coast of a bright blue sea. Across the water, you can see dozens of islands and points of land jutting out into the sea. Rugged mountains rise behind your village. It is hard to travel across the mountains to trade with others. Near your home, though, is a coast that is a great place to anchor a boat. What could you do to make a living here? So pause the video and then answer that in your skinnier section. And I'll wait for a bit. All right, so you probably, hopefully, should have said you could fish, you could trade, use this, build ships and trade out in different places and things like that. Another Brainstack here. This one's in the clouds. This is Greece. I wanted you guys to draw what you think it looks like. And a lot of people said like a shrimp. There was like a face in there, something like that. So. So now we're going to, on your Google Classroom, you should already have a map, but if you can check it out as we go kind of forward. So we went through the map and labeled some things, different seas and stuff like that. The first one is the Ionian Sea over by these two islands. Next one is the Aegean Sea over in the middle. Mediterranean Sea down at the bottom. The Pindos Mountains going through the heart of Greece there. The Peloponnesus is that section of land that's kind of like has water on three sides of it. And then two cities, Athens and Sparta. Now make sure you remember these locations because you'll have a quiz on the next class that we have. All right, another Brainstack. We played Locate where I had you guys drag the taco to where I wanted you to go to. So you can't do that obviously with this interactive thing, but if you want to look them over, you can look them over and that'll be fine. All right, so this is the notes section that we took notes on for this part. So the Greeks did live on a very mountainous piece of land, which was surrounded by water. The actual mainland of Greece is what we call a peninsula. A peninsula is a piece of land that is surrounded by water on three sides. So we have the Aegean Sea, the Ionian Sea, and the Mediterranean Sea, right? Those are the three pieces of water. It's actually really interesting because Greece also has a lot of mini peninsulas that are surrounded by little pieces of water, like parts of the Aegean or parts of the Ionian Sea or whatever. Like the Peloponnesus was surrounded by three different sets of water on three different sides, and excuse me, and that is kind of where we get the word peninsula from. Well, not from Peloponnesus, but that's what it is. Excuse me. Because of those mountains, the Greeks could only live the way that geography will allow them. You see that because of the mountains, there were a few areas, only a few for farming. There was not a lot of fields for farming. Travel was very difficult going from place to place because of crossing mountains. And so most of the time they would be fishermen to get their food, and they would be shipbuilders and trade with other cities on the sea. Also, many of these cities, these towns and villages, came up with their own governments and cultures. For example, Athens was more book smart, more about education. Sparta was more about training warriors, right? They trained at a very young age. Both had two different types of governments. One was a democracy, one was an oligarchy. So you can see that because of the mountains, a lot of cities were isolated, just like China was isolated, meaning that they were set apart from everybody else. So that allowed them to have their own cultures and governments. They were great sailors. They used the seas for food and trade. They were able to trade ideas with others. For example, the Phoenicians gave them an alphabet, just like they gave us an alphabet, and they came up with their own language. And this is just a quick check. And we went over how the Greeks survived. You should know that they went to the sea, right? Because there wasn't there was too much mountains. There wasn't a lot of flat land to farm on. So in order to survive, they went to the sea, they fished, and traded that way. And that is the first set of notes.